Welcome to a new lesson, Imperial Measures of Length. Before we continue with the lesson, we have to make sure that comparison is done between imperial units and SI units. The imperial units are measured in inches, feet, yards, as well as miles. While on the other hand, the SI system, or the SI units, are measured in specifically meters. And it's based on the metric system, where we can have centimeters, meters, decameters, kilometers, and so forth, as well as millimeters, and the list continues. In today's lesson, we are going to be talking about imperial measurements of length, specifically inches, feet, yards, and miles. On the left, there is a small conversion table for you. Well, 12 inches equals 1 foot for imperial measurements, 3 feet is 1 yard, 220 yards is 1 furlong, which is mostly not used by us in school. 8 furlongs is 1 mile, 5,280 feet is 1 mile, and 1,760 yards is also considered as 1 mile. What we are interested in is the conversion for feet to inches, for yards to feet, and for 1 mile to feet, and for 1 mile to yards. These are the most important conversions we are going to be dealing with in class. Also, we're going to be using a little bit of shortcuts, where inches is going to be referred to as, short has IN, foot as FT, don't forget a period, yards as YD, a little shortcut abbreviation for you, and the mile as MI with a period. It is important that you write down these conversions that has the X somewhere in your notes, so that it will help you to solve certain problems. Let's take a look at our first example, our first problem of the day. In this problem, we'll try to convert 5 yards to feet, and then we're going to convert it to inches. Refer to your table that you copied down earlier. This table says that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. We're going to use this information to help us solve how much is in 5 yards in feet. Since 1 yard is exactly 3 feet, 5 yards would be 5 times 3. So let's start. So 5 yards would be 5 times 3 feet. So it would turn out to be 15 feet. Same problem can be done by unit analysis. And the way we do it is by multiplying by a specific ratio. So let's set this up. We know that we have 5 yards, and we're trying to convert this to feet. So we're looking for the answer in feet. The way we're going to do this is by multiplying by the specific equation or ratio. And then how do we set up the ratio? Since we have feet in what we call a numerator, we have to have feet as well as in the numerator of this fraction. So we're going to put feet on top as 3 feet, and for every 3 feet there's 1 yard. Now initially when you look at this, it looks a little bit tricky. How do we get 3 feet out of this? Recall that when you're multiplying fractions, you always multiply the numerator with the numerator and the denominator, which in this case is just 1, with the denominator of the second fraction. When you do this, yards will cancel with yards, and the only thing that's left is feet. So 5 times 3 turn out to be 15 feet, the same as the answer above. Same as the answer above. Now this is a little bit tricky initially to do. However, once you get a little bit more in depth in it and practice more, you'll have. Now we're going to convert the 5 yards to feet. Pardon me, to inches, or IN. From your textbook or from other charts, you could see that 1 yard is equivalent to exactly 36 inches. So you can just multiply 5 with 36 inches, and you get approximately 180 inches for every 5 yards. Using unit analysis, you can do the same thing. Well, at least not the same thing, but get the same result. So let's just set it up with unit analysis. We have 5 yards, and look at the conversion. We want to have the units of inches, so we have to set up a ratio to multiply this ratio right here. We can either put 36 on top as a numerator or as a denominator. We have to see. The way we see it is that we see that on the left hand side right here we have yards. We have to have yards canceling out. So we have to put 1 yard in the denominator, while the 36 inches in the numerator. And since we're looking for inches, we have to have inches in the numerator. When we do this, again, we have a denominator on the left-hand side. We again multiply the top with the top, the bottom with the bottom. So we have 5 times 36, which is 180. And yards will cancel out. And we have the same result. Let's take a look at another example. In this example, we're going to convert 51 inches to feet and inches. If you look at your table, we know that 1 foot is equivalent to 12 inches. That's the conversion. And common mathematical sense dictates that if we have 51 inches, this would equal less than 51 feet, because 1 foot is way greater than 12 inches. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to divide 51 inches by 12. And we will get, the result is 4.25. This means that we have exactly 4 feet and 25 over 100 of a foot. Or in this case, just a quarter of a foot. So what's a quarter of a foot in inches? We have to convert this, so don't forget, so we have 4 feet and a quarter of a foot. Or if your fractions are not that great, which is fine, 25 of 100 of a foot. So how do we convert that to inches? Because we're looking for feet and inches. We're going to take this and multiply by 12. Why by 12? Because we're converting the feet to inches, and when we do this, we multiply it by 12. So what is our answer in this case? So we had 4 feet plus, we get 3. What does this 3 mean is that it's actually 3 inches. So the answer is 4 feet plus 3 inches. What's a little bit difficult about this to see is that, let's take a look at the decimal. The 4 means that it's 4 feet. The 0.25 means that we have less than a foot, and we have to figure out from there, by using this step, by multiplying by 12, to find out how many inches, in this case, is left. On top of this, we have to be careful in solving for yards, as well as feet and inches. We already have inches settled, but the feet, or the 4 feet, has to be further divided into the yards. Let's take a look at the conversion. We know that 1 yard is equivalent to 3 feet. So we know that part of the 4 feet is actually, there's a yard in it. How do we know this? We divide the 4 feet by the conversion. 1 yard is 3 feet, so 4 feet divided by 3 is equal to 1.33 yards. This means that we have exactly 1 yard, and I'm just going to separate this so you can see a little bit better. 1 yard plus 0.33 of a yard. Or, instead of 0.33, we have 33 hundredths of a yard. This also means, if you want to find out how much feet it is, it's a little bit tricky and a little bit convoluted what I'm going to do, but you can multiply this value by the conversion again. When we had inches to feet right here, we multiply by 12. But in this case, since 1 yard is 3 feet, we'll multiply by 3 again, and we'll get exactly, or relatively, 1 foot. 1 yard plus 1 foot plus 3 inches, because we still have 3 inches remaining from the first part that we did. Another way you could think about it with 4 feet, well, if there are 3 feet, that's a yard, there's 1 foot left. And this 33 yards over 100 times 3 is a little bit convoluted, but it does result in the same answer, or the solution is a little bit different. Let's take a look at another example. Anna is framing a picture. The perimeter of our frame picture will be 136 inches. What will be the perimeter of the frame picture in feet and in inches? This question means that if we measure all the way through and all the way around the picture, it will be exactly 136 inches. And we want to convert 136 inches to feet and inches. So it's a very similar question as before. We have to convert 136 inches to feet and inches. Well, we know that 1 foot is exactly 12 inches. So we're going to take 136 divided by 12 to find out how many feet exist in the inches. When we divide this, we get the answer of 11.33 repeating. This little line means that it's repeating forever. 3's continue on and on. The non-decimal value means that we have exactly 11 feet. So we have 11 feet. And we have less than a foot. That means we have 0.333, which is a third, or 0.33 over 100 of a foot. And we need to convert this part into inches. How many inches of that exist? The way we do this is we, again, multiply by the conversion of 12 inches. So we multiply this by 12, and we'll get inches. So what's the answer? We get 11 feet plus 4 inches exactly. Now, if you want to check to see if you to get this answer, the best way to do it is doing backwards. And this is how you do it. We're going to reverse it. We're going to take 11 feet, multiply this by 12, and add 4. And you should get 136 inches. So we're converting the feet to inches by multiplying by 12, and then adding 4 because we have 4 inches left, and we get 136. Let's add on a cost value to it. If this frame is sold by the foot, and it costs $1.89 per foot, what would be the cost of the material before taxes? Now, the answer to the previous question was that we had 11 feet plus 4 inches. This means that we have approximately, when you're buying, you can't just buy inches. You have to buy a complete feet. So we have to buy actually 12 feet. We'll have material over, but we'll have about 12 feet of material that we have to purchase. It's very important that you understand this unit analysis thing. We're going to use that unit analysis to find out how much money we are actually going to be spending. We know that we have 12 feet of material, and the ratio is $1.89 per 1 foot, and we want to find out the cost of it in dollars. Notice the setup. Why is this ratio of $1.89 per 1 foot written like so? The reason for it is because when multiplying fractions again, we have to multiply the numerator with the numerator and the denominator with the denominator. That means the top of the top and the bottom of the bottom. That means feet will have to cancel. So when we multiply, we're going to multiply 12 by 1.89. So we're going to get more than $12. We have to pay more than $12. It is $22.89. Let's take a look at another example. The school council has 6 yards of fabric that will be cut into strips, 5 inches wide, to make a decorations banner for the school dance. How many banners can be made from this 6-yard fabric? If we were to unravel this fabric, of course it would be green, not just white. We would be looking for strips of 5 inches wide. 5 inches. Another way to write inches is by having this little symbol of quotations. So 5 inches wide. And the whole length of the roll would be 6 yards. The problem here exists is that 5 inches and 6 yards can't be worked together. We have to convert it into yards or to inches. And it's easier to convert yards to inches. So first, we have to convert 6 yards to inches. We know that 1 foot is 12 feet, so 12 inches, not feet. And we know also that 3 feet is also equivalent to 1 yard. Therefore, 12 times 3 is 36. That means 36 inches to a yard. And since we have 6 yards, It's the same thing as 6 times 36, which was 216 inches. So we know that 6 yards is the same thing as 216 inches. So now we could erase 6 yards and just put 216 inches. And how many of these banners, which are 5 inches in width, can fit across 216 inches? Well, we just take 216 divided by 5, 43.2. To be exact, there's no unit for it because we could 43.2. That means this is how many banners of decorations the school dance can have from the roll of 216 inches or 6 yards. So the really answer is 43 banners. The next part of this question is to verify that indeed it is 216 inches in 6 yards. So how do we convert, for unit conversion or unit analysis, 6 yards to inches? Exactly. To help us along, let's repeat the ratios. So 1 foot is exactly 12 inches, and also 3 feet is exactly 1 yard. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to convert yards to feet. So we're going to multiply by this ratio, feet and yards. Since we need to cancel the yards, we're going to put the 1 yard in the denominator and 3 feet in the numerator. Now we could cancel out the yards because it is multiplication, and we have numerator multiplied by numerator and denominator with denominator. Eventually you have yards over yards and yards cancel. So we successfully will convert yards to feet using this method. However, we have to convert to inches. So let's set up our second ratio to multiply. And this time we have inches, and we're looking for inches, so we're going to put 12 inches in the numerator and the 1 foot in the denominator. Since again we're multiplying the top with the top, the bottom with the bottom, feet will cancel, and we're only going to have inches left. So on your calculator, you would just put 6 times 3 times 12, so 12, to get 216 inches as your length of the roll. Our last question. A map of Alaska has a scale of 1 to 4,750,000. The distance on the map between Paxson and the Canadian border is the line in green, and Paxson is a little city, a little town in Alaska, is 3 inches and 11/16 of an inch. What is the distance to the nearest mile between the borders, between the city and the border? Now, the first thing we have to talk about is this scale right here. Maps are usually scaled down version of the real distances. If the measured distance by ruler is about 3 inches and 11/16 of an inch, the actual distance is 4,750,000 times larger than the distance measured by this 3 inches and 11/16 of an inch. So in order to find the actual distance in inches between Paxson and the border, we have to multiply those two numbers together. So we'll take 3 plus 11/16, so make sure you have that in brackets, because that's what the fractions means, and we're going to multiply this by 4,750,000. I'll put a column between the three zeros. And we'll get the answer of, make sure in your calculator you have a bracket for the 3 plus 11 over 16th. Get 17,515,625 inches. This is in inches, but the question is asking us what is it nearest mile. Specifically, what is in mile. So now we have to convert the inches into miles. So let's take a look at your table again, and you'll find out that there are approximately 5,280 feet in 1 mile, whereas, oh, don't forget the 0, whereas there is also 12 inches in 1 foot. This means that if we multiply 12 and the 5,280, we'll find out how many inches there is in 1 mile. So 12 times 5,280 is 1 mile. So 1 mile is equivalent to 63360 inches. So we're going to take this value and divide by, or take the 17,515,625, divide by that number. And we're going to get the answer in miles, which is 276.4 miles, or rough estimate 276 miles between Paxson and the Canadian border.